and I hope Brian doesn't mind. There was a number of employees that were summoned to the Ontario Northland building expecting to hear good news. And you can imagine when they arrived to hear the type of news that they heard. So to answer your question, Bob, absolutely none. It's stunned our council, it's stunned our senior staff, and I think it's probably stunned our whole community.
Have you come up with any specific actions that you want to take as a city, or that you want to take as a group with the union?
We, Gord, as you know, we've basically had about 3 hours to try to put this all together, and it gives you an idea of the support that we're lending the men and women of the ONTC. The message that we're trying to convey is to give us a fair chance to be able to put Ontario Northland on a solid roadway, and they have the expertise. If they're willing, if the government will allow them and give them the tools that they need, they have a plan. They haven't been given that opportunity to implement that plan.
As you say, it's devastating to northeastern Ontario. What are you hearing up and down the line from your colleagues?
I've spoken with the Mayor of Timmins, the Mayor of Cochrane. I've spoken with the two MPPs, Gilles Bisson. I've spoken with our local member, Vic Fideli. I've spoken with Paul Goulet. I've spoken with the unions. I can tell you that they're in shock as well. They're trying to formulate their own plans. We need to work together as Northeastern Ontario. But having said that, Kate, you know, here we are 4 hours later of hearing probably the worst news we could possibly have heard. So you can imagine that we still need some time. But the message that we're trying to say is these men and women have a plan. We should be behind them. We as a council, we as a city of North Bay, we as a community stand with them, and we want them to have that opportunity to show us what they can do. And I can tell you I have confidence in that.
Tell us about what what kind of devastation people are going to see. Like you said, maybe medical appointments, but it goes far more than that.
It is the mandate of Ontario Northland, and Brian might correct me if I'm wrong, is to open up the Northeast. It's an economic driver for us. Transportation is huge. I mean, the government has put the Northern Growth Plan in place and actually carved out a whole economic side of things. But I'm trying to, Kate, just concentrate on the fact that the men and women of the ONTC need our support, and we should allow them to put a plan in place.
Al, I got to ask you the fact that a lot of people are saying this was politically based in the decision-making here. That there are only 3 Liberal members in Northeastern Ontario. There used to be more. There used to be 1 in this riding. Do you see this as being a political move by the government, that you know, there just isn't a representation on their side to push Ontario Northland as being a publicly owned operation?
I'll leave the speculation to you, Mr. Coles. I'd like to just repeat that we should give the men and women of the ONTC the opportunity to put a plan in place that can show that it is a viable operation and that it's important to Northeastern Ontario.
Would they pull this with the GO Transit south of us?
Kate, you probably know the answer to that. In my remarks, we expect to be treated as Ontarians. And they fund GO Transit. They have huge subsidies in Southern Ontario. We're Ontarians.
Do you think Mr. Bartolucci should have the courtesy to show up to make the announcement here?
Rob, thank you for the question. I will say that we believe that the men and women of the ONTC deserve the opportunity to turn this operation into something very special. And I think they have the ability to do that.
Well, we need the government to rethink their decision and allow us the opportunity to come up with a plan, formulate a plan with the management team here and the stakeholders across the north to right the ship. The government will say that they've given us the opportunity. Well, the fact of the matter is, in 2003, we gave Mr. Bartolucci, who was minister at the time, a comprehensive plan on how we should be restructured in the sense of how we're governed, the governorship.
Was this the internal solutions group?
It was just a part about the way the agency runs, that we be a standalone agency and allow us to make our decisions. That was never brought into being. We stayed in the Ministry of Northern Development Mines. and any decision that was brought forth by the government, or excuse me, by the commission through the workers or through management had to be vetted by MMDM. So, to be honest, MMDM is part of the problem here. But what we're saying is we're not here to slam them enough. What we need to do is be taken out of the MMDM. We have to be put into MTO with people who know transportation and make this thing work. We're not asking for the cash to keep on coming, but there's a certain amount of capital expenditure that has to be put into the infrastructure of Ontario Northland, just like it is put into the TTC, just like it's put into the to Metro Metrolinx, Ottawa Transit, and I can go on and on and on. We're just asking for the same opportunity. Unlike them, though, we have to go through a bureaucracy that ties our hands on trying to develop a plan that works for the North. We're the only group that is the only Crown agency that's like that. We're saying that has to end. That's part of the problem here.
Are you looking to table the idea of becoming a standalone agency again, Brian?
Well, that's been the official position of the union, to be honest. If we go into the MTO, we're fine with that, but they have to allow us, the Northerners, the people that work here, the stakeholders, we have to allow some autonomy to allow us to develop a plan that's going to work for Northerners, right? That's what we're asking for. We got to quit going through this bureaucracy to make decisions. We got to stop that. You got to put the people in charge of Ontario Northland and the stakeholders, allow them to develop the plan and implement it.
So there's no plan at this point?
We've been ongoing with Paul Goulet, some preliminary discussions. Again, this just came out at us today. Like Al McDonald said, the mayor said, we were blindsided by this. We never saw this coming. We had some concerns, no doubt, and we made some changes to all of our collective agreements. We took the wage freezes. In the shop group that I represent, we made massive changes to our agreement so we could compete in the private sector. And then the government cuts our legs out by awarding the contract to CAD. So we've never had the chance to get to where we actually need to get, where we could get everybody in a room to develop a plan. Right? We've been working on some small things, but we need to look at the whole ONTC now. That's what we're talking about. And again, the hammer came down 3 hours ago or 4 hours ago, and we're just slowly just trying to grasp the reality of it. But what we're saying is, we've always said, just let us give us the opportunity to do the right thing for the North, and we will.
If they carry this out, is this economic devastation for this area?
There's 1,000 people. Listen, when CN bought BC Rail, you go ask the people in British Columbia what happened. All right, those communities were devastated. The workers, half the workers, at least half were gone. So anybody trying to paint this up as a positive economically for all the communities in Northern Ontario are dreaming in Technicolor. We're saying that's not necessary, right? They can't use the deficit as an excuse to get out of their commitment to the North. I mean, as Mr. McDonald said, he said, just treat us the same as other Ontarians, right? There's money that has to be spent to run the services that we provide. But we could provide this service a lot more efficiently if they would just take handcuffs off and allow us to do that.
Now, you turned around back in, what, 2000, almost 10 years ago.
2003, June 2nd,
Okay.
2003 is when the divestiture was taken off the table.
Okay, so you managed to turn it around once. Do you think you can do it again?
Yeah, we can, and we did that under this bureaucracy. So what we're saying is, we believe we can have a lasting fix to Ontario Northland if we're put in the right minister and allowed ourselves a bit of the autonomy that we need to run it properly. But also, too, the government has to realize there's a cost to investing in the North. It's not a subsidy; it's an investment. And actually, there's studies out there that says that for every dollar they spend, they get $2.50 back. So we're a hell of an investment.
What can the public do today? I mean, you guys are formulating your go-forward papers. You know, what can they do? What do you want to see them do?
Well, I mean, they can call their local MPP, but they'd be all on site because they're all either New Democrats or Conservatives. My advice is contact the Premier. Contact any Liberal MPP. Contact the Minister Bartolucci. Say, this is the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong, don't hide behind the deficit. This is the wrong solution.
Will you launch a letter-writing campaign the way you did over Metrolinx, or is it
Again,
too soon to say?
it's too soon. It's just preliminary. We've, as a group, we had about a quick hour meeting amongst the unions, and we met with the mayor. He graciously invited us here to sit down and come up with a plan, and this is what we strategize coming forward. That's of now. Who knows? I'm not quite sure where we're going to go from now.
Have you gotten that contract, Brian? Do you think this would be announced today, or do you think things would be different?
Well, I would say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I say this is part of the plan. It was part of the plan that we didn't get it. But again, I'm not a grassy knoll type person.
Would they pull this in Southern Ontario?
No. No, they wouldn't. No.
And during the provincial election, I mean, the strategic alliance came up, and you said it was the best thing that ever happened to the ONTC. Flash forward to now, and it seems like it's the total opposite. How do you feel about that?
Well, like I said, I had heard one person say we feel betrayed. I mean, the commitments were made privately and publicly to us, and they weren't. It wasn't followed through. Again, they're going to use the excuse of the deficit. We're saying this isn't the deficit doing this. Actually, we're money well spent, and the government gets a return on that investment throughout the north, and the north grows because of it. So, that was the way I'd answer that.
If the Liberals
Find out, how did members find out today?
Well, we found out via the teleconference with the minister. So word spread quickly. Paul Goulet, the president of the ONTC, put out an update to all the workers at the ONTC. The General Chairpersons of the Association put out a quick press release to everybody to let them know what's going on. And so they found word of mouth and via email.
do you think if the Liberals were elected in this riding, we'd be here today?
I honestly don't know. I can't answer that question. But the politics doesn't look very good, though.
Your reaction, first of all, to this devastating announcement?
Well, I mean, we're shocked by it, obviously. We found out that there was going to be an announcement made this morning. We found out about 9:30, and what that announcement was, we were, not fully privy to, but the news is devastating, and it has, economic, socioeconomic impact right throughout Northern Ontario, and, 1,000+ employees in Northern Ontario, suppliers, businesses that have direct and indirect contact with the ONTC, and it's we're at a loss because it is so huge.
Talk about what this means to suppliers in the North Bay District.
Well, I know a number of suppliers that the ONTC make up more than 50% of their business. So to have that go by the wayside will have a devastating impact. I mean, there could be closures, business closures. It's too soon to speculate, but the cost will not only be to the 1,000+ employees, but to a number of others that have direct and indirect contact with the ONTC.
So for a lot of businesses, this company is huge.
It is, and I mean, we've been, the government has been talking about the North Ontario Growth Plan for a number of years now. The Chamber's been involved, the city's been involved, and they've never come out and identified the ONTC in that growth plan, and we've been after them too for a number of years. And our feeling is, given the ONTC's mandate, that they should have been part of that growth plan right from the start. And now, I mean, it really flies in the face of what the growth plan is all about. And I don't know how they expect to deliver a Northern Ontario growth plan without a transportation platform. So, we've made an investment for 5 generations of people working that have built this company locally and throughout Northern Ontario, and it's devastating.
What are you hearing up and down the line from other chambers of commerce?
Well, we haven't. We're beginning to reach out this afternoon. We've been tied up all day with dealing with a message, and we'll be reaching out. I mean, letter writing campaigns, petitions, and I'm sure those are going to be things on the table. Our message, obviously, is one, we want to be able to say, give us a chance. There is a plan here. There is expertise. I think the ONTC wants to be aligned with a ministry that understands transportation, and I think that's part of the cure. And we simply want them to give us a chance. But I think from a chamber standpoint, and as taxpayers, I think everybody in Northern Ontario has to understand that Northern Ontario taxpayers currently and have always subsidized Southern Ontario transportation and infrastructure, and we want to be treated as Ontarians, not second-class citizens. Don't treat us any better, any worse, but we want the same opportunities. And when you look at families that rely on the ONTC to get to medical appointments, to get to school, all of these things are off the table. The Northlander train is already being dismantled, according to the press release from the ONTC, and it's unacceptable. So give us a chance, and yeah.